Hello, my name is Daniel Pink. I'm a contributing editor at Wired, and this is a presentation using a technique called Pachachka. I learned about Pachachka during a recent stay in Japan, and write about it in the September issue of the magazine. To break it down, Pachachka is 20 slides with 20 seconds per slide. That's what I'm doing here. Now, doing a Pachachka presentation about Pachachka was a little too postmodern for me, so I'm doing mine about something else. It's about signs. I'm somewhat obsessed with signs. Of course, I'm speaking of signs in the semiotic sense, where there is something that stands for something else to someone in some capacity. Ferdinand de Saussure came up with a model for the meaning-making process in which there exists a sign composed of the signifier, or sound image, and signified, or concept. He explained that in the meaning-making process, the signified and the signifier interact through signification to represent the sign. I'll use the trusty example. If the sign is a tree, the spoken word or sound image tree is the signifier, and the mental image of a tree that is created in our heads when we hear this word is the signified. So we have the spoken word tree as the signifier, the mental picture of the tree as the signified, and our point of reference, of course, is the tree itself. However, I'm going to start off with something called the aura. Theorist Walter Benjamin explained the aura in this way. The authenticity of a thing is the essence of all that is transmissible from its beginning, ranging from its substantive duration to its testimony to the history which it has experienced. So authority, authenticity, history, what we're really talking about then is an object's imaginary value or worth that is bestowed upon it based on the factors of production and survival. Let us consider an object with one of the richest auras in history, the Eiffel Tower. I personally think the Eiffel Tower is an aesthetically unpleasing structure, particularly the wiry and industrial top portion of it. However, despite these feelings, I snapped this more romantic picture of the structure this summer. Romance was not my intention, but in hindsight, I think the aura of the tower forced me to frame this shot. Now, this aura-defeating man relationship is represented in figure 1.10, where the minor aura value and double minor aura value are graphed to expose the 10-minute major at 1.5 and 2.1, the game misconduct at 5 and 11, and the cloudy issue of league suspension at 6.5 and 16. In contrast to this, Andy Warhol was famous for his appropriated artworks, which were suggested to demystify or debase the aura of an object. With Warhol's Marilyn Monroe prints, the argument is that the repetition and colors of Monroe's headshots effectively saturated her rich aura. This man-defeating aura relationship is represented in figure 2.70, where a minor aura value and a major aura value are graphed to expose a flat at 1.5 and 2.1, a sharp at 5 and 11, and the German composer and pianist Beethoven at 6.5 and 16. The man versus aura relationship is subjective, but the objective of this presentation is to encourage people to create emotionally intelligent signage, where intelligent signage increases happiness and unintelligent signage decreases it. To be clear, we're talking about signs in any semiotic discourse, picture, film, text, etc. Now, the semiotic terms denotative and connotative explain two ways to read discourses. For example, this picture denotes a well-dressed man on the front of a boat. However, it connotes SNL star Andy Samberg on a mothering boat riding a big blue watery road. In turn, we can see denotative as an exact reading and connotative as a learned reading. Appropriation adds connotative meaning to a work of art. Here we see Heidi Popovic appropriating Warhol's Marilyn in her contemporary series, where she mimics the style of Warhol's work, replacing Monroe's face with a skull. For myself, at least, when I see Warhol's Marilyn now, it triggers the mental image of Popovic's work. If the appropriated work becomes world famous, so too will the connotative meaning. However, not all appropriations are successful. For example, this GMC Vehicles Gone Wild advertisement only further perpetuates the failures of a struggling company by tacking on negative connotations of female exploitation. Ernst Gombrich explains, once they are solved, it is hard to recover the impression sound images made on us while we were searching for the solution. In contrast, it is easy to access the solved sound image again. So it's fair to say that appropriated artworks are easier to comprehend than new artworks. Perhaps that's why artists like Popovic and GMC appropriate. However, Gombrich continues by saying, "The history of art is presented as a story of continuous advance, in which the achievements of one are used and extended by the next." The key word here is extended. Extension of a work's ideas is key to good appropriation and intelligent signage. Consider this graph where Popovic's Monroe skulls, in blue, continue the upward flow of Warhol's aura, exemplified by the continued upward momentum after the point of appropriation. In contrast, GMC's porn vehicles, in red, accelerate the downward flow of Girls Gone Wild's aura. Note the arrows and their corresponding values. Now just let me verify that when I speak of appropriation, I'm not speaking of a healthy idolization as seen here. I'm speaking of using another's property without permission or consent. And when I speak of unintelligent signage, I'm speaking of any semiotic discourse that retards us as a species. That's any semiotic discourse that retards us as a species. Well, that's it. Right on time. Emotionally intelligent signage is a very modest suggestion. Toss into the public domain. It's yours if you want it. You can find out more about Pachachka at that URL. You can find me at that email address, and you can read lots of great stories in this month's Wired. I'm Daniel Pink, and I'm out of time.